The Serious Organised Crime Task Force for Scotland was set up in 2009, and the prime purpose was to move away from it being viewed as purely a police issue. So now there are 4 strands to the task force, and those 4 strands are led by the police, the Crown Office, a member of the voluntary sector, and myself as the further lead who leads from the public sector. Now, what we try and do is make sure that people understand clearly that serious organised crime isn't something that happens elsewhere. It happens in the localities and the streets in which everyone in Scotland lives, and it impacts in everybody's life, whether it be through drug dealing, whether it be through illicit sales of illegal or forged sportswear, or cigarette sales, as well as being involved in legitimate businesses to the detriment of those businesses who try to operate legally. My particular focus is on the Deter strand, and the Deter strand exists to make a hostile environment for serious organised crime groups to operate and to impact on legitimate business. And there's 4 particular areas that we concentrate on. Number 1 is about private industry and private businesses. How can we assist private businesses to make themselves more resilient to the impacts and the influence of serious organised criminals? And a big aspect of that these days has to be in cybercrime. And one of our partner agencies, the Scottish Business Resilience Centre, that spends a lot of time and a lot of effort in supporting businesses to make themselves more resilient and to ensure that they can avoid cybercrime wherever possible. The second area of focus is the public sector. How can the public sector make themselves more resilient and ensure that they're not targeted by serious organised crime groups? Public sector is an area where these groups can actually legitimise their businesses. If they can get public sector contracts, if they can work with public sector agencies, it legitimises their business and also enables them to get access to public funds for their illegitimate means. And we spend a lot of time and effort in working with public agencies to ensure that they recognise the threats and that they put measures in place so that they can ensure that these illegitimate businesses do not get public sector contracts. The third area is looking at licensing and regulation. Public sector agencies undertake most of the licensing activities for legitimate business in Scotland. That includes public houses, but it also includes industries such as second-hand car sales. It includes window cleaners licences, and it includes a whole range of civic licences such as taxi licensing. Now, a lot of these licences impact on day-to-day activities of legitimate business people who are trying to make a living. What happens when serious organised crime gets involved is they can undercut these legitimate businesses, take business away from them, and quite often results in those legitimate businesses either ceasing to trade or they have to lose jobs through the impact of these serious organised crime groups. Effective licensing and regulations and making sure that wherever permissions are required, those permissions are applied correctly can seriously impact on the influence of these serious organised crime groups. The final area that we look at is procurement, which sounds like a dry subject, but there's a lot of procurement rules that public sector organisations have to follow when they're tendering for business. And what we try to do is work with those national agencies who work in procurement, such as Scotland Excel and the NHS procurement arm, to make sure that these illegitimate businesses do not get access to huge public sector contracts. And there's lots of controls in place, but we have to be vigilant and we have to make sure that whenever tender exercises are undertaken, legitimate businesses have a fair crack at the whip at getting those contracts. 2 areas that have been a recent focus for the Deter strand have related to issues which may not immediately appear to people to be serious organised crime. And the first one really is about illegal landing of shellfish in the Ayrshire coast, where those shellfish were then put through a legitimate business and exported to Europe at huge profit for the organisations involved. Now, that impacted on not only the people who were buying illegally landed shellfish and they were buying a product which should never have been made available to them in the first place, but it impacted significantly on those businesses who were acting legally in Ayrshire trying to operate a fisheries business, which is a very difficult trade to operate in. And people don't necessarily recognise food crime as an area that serious organised crime groups would get involved in. And I have to say, food crime is an area which may be viewed by the public as less serious than drug crime, but we have to recognise that both of those issues feed the same organisations and inevitably feed the drug trade at the end of the day. Another area where people might might think that serious organised crime is not involved to a great extent, or where the crime is not that serious, maybe counterfeit DVDs, counterfeit sportswear, or illegal sales of cigarettes or alcohol. And you may think it's okay to buy illegal cigarettes because they're cheaper, or alcohol which is cheaper and someone's selling it at a corner shop or selling it in a pub to you that you can get it at a much cheaper price. Or it may be that you buy sports goods which you know are cheaper than they should be. Those sports goods may be counterfeit, or they may have been stolen. And we have to remember, if you're willing to accept that and you think that that's acceptable, then it's just as acceptable to have a drug dealer in your street corner, because all of these groups all feed into the same organisations, and it's all about making money which can then fund further illegal activity. What we would say is, if you are aware of activities such as has been described, then you should report it to the police, or report it to the relevant licensing agency, which may very well be your own council, or it may be the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, because it is only through you reporting it that these agencies become aware of the activity, and it's only once these agencies are aware of the scale of the activity that they can actually take effective action. So I would say, no matter how minor it may seem to you, please report it, because all of those reports are taken seriously, and all of those reports feed into giving us the overall picture of the activities which are taking place in your community.